President Biden's approval numbers continue to plummet as the administration does struggle to overcome issues with the supply chain, labor force, the southern border, national security, the economy. Joining us right now, RNC spokesman Paris Dennard. Paris, good morning to you. You know, it has been one crisis after another, and some people might say they're surprised the numbers aren't lower than they actually are already, and people's memories are short these days. What did you make of these numbers?
Well, thank you for having me on the show. People's memories are short, but I think what's happening is their experiences living under the Biden-Harris economy are long-lived. They're going to be long felt. Whether it is going to the grocery store and paying more for everyday items to keep food on the table, to paying more for gasoline, school supplies are more expensive. People feel the impact of this economy, and they feel the impact of what the negative decisions the Biden-Harris administration are making plays on their everyday lives. And so while a lot of times you see short memory spans when it comes to political issues, when they come home, when they're personal, when you see your friend and your neighbor and your family members not being able to get a job, when you see violence and crime in your communities and you're impacted by murders in your family and seeing these acts of violence all across your community, that has a lasting impact. And that's the thing that is driving these poll numbers down across the board for the Biden-Harris administration. The lasting impact of their negative, horrible policies that are impacting everyday Americans.
And Paris, according to some new data from Morning Consult, President Biden's approval number specifically among black voters has continued to decline since the summer. What are you hearing from voters regarding President Biden's performance, and what is at the center of the declining support specifically among black Americans this morning?
Well, primarily when you looked at that poll, it came after the forced vaccine mandate that President Biden proposed and is planning to implement. That is wildly unpopular with the black community. You're having black Americans, many of them having to choose between going to work and having to get a vaccine that they don't feel like they should be forced into making. The black community has a long history of having issues with forced vaccines with the federal government. So there's an issue of trust that the Biden administration did not address properly. They actually contributed to vaccine hesitancy, and this forced vaccine mandate is not helping. The other issue that is really important is public safety. When you look at the majority of these urban cities across the country led by Democrats, and they're pushing the defund the police movement, which is more than a hashtag, it's actual policy, it has left communities of color and other communities across the country unsafe. Rising crime, violence, and murders are up, and people look at this and say, this is not a city I want to live in. This is a city that I don't feel safe in for my family and my children. And so that contributes to why President Biden's poll numbers are sinking when it comes to the black community. And then lastly, his support for HBCUs has not been as strong as many wanted to see. And in his last and most recent tax and spend bill, the $3.5 trillion bill, the aid and support to historically black college and university was cut. And so many people in the black community said, how can this happen when you have a VP that went to an HBCU and you have Democrats running the House, the Senate, and the White House? Why are you leaving black people out in the cold when it comes to your promises to support HBCUs like President Trump did?
Well, we're starting to learn more about this $3.5 trillion bill. The more some Americans are learning at this point, the more they're not liking what they're seeing. And to your point, right now, a lot of folks looking ahead to the midterm elections. What strategies is the RNC using to attract new voters to the Republican Party?
Well, it's an exciting time for the Republican Party. Our chairwoman, Ronna McDaniel, has been very strong in terms of reaching out to diverse communities. We are opening up community centers across the country in the Latino community. We just opened one in San Antonio yesterday. Tomorrow we'll be opening up a Black American Community Center in Atlanta, Georgia. We've opened up several APA community centers. So we are excited about taking the Republican message, the free enterprise message, the inclusive message, the empowering message to diverse communities all across the country with this multi-million-dollar effort that is a sustained strategy, a specific strategy that is going to have us in these communities, not just 2 months before the election or 2 weeks before the election, but continuing from what we did last year and moving into this year, going into the midterm elections. We are serious about minority engagement and taking these issues that matter to these communities directly to them, and we're excited about it.
Right now, the gubernatorial race in Virginia drawing a lot of national attention. I know through canvassing and speaking with voters, you found a number of issues that matter most at the moment. Can you tell us what those are? And is this a glimpse into the issues that will drive, do you think, voters to the polls this upcoming midterm election season?
Oh, absolutely. Look, I live in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I voted early yesterday for Glenn Youngkin and the entire GOP ticket. And you see the trend lines are going up for Glenn Youngkin. He's closing in on that race. And it is some polls have him neck and neck. Some have him up. It is something that the Democrats are scared about because they see when you have a good candidate, one that speaks directly to the people, addresses the issues that really matter to them. Glenn Youngkin is talking about eliminating the tax on groceries because he sees the rising inflation that is impacting Virginia families. He's talking about being strong on public safety. That's why he has a support of over 50 sheriffs across the country. And remember, Terry McAuliffe was a former governor of Virginia. So the people know him. The people have seen him. Organizations, black organizations in Virginia have actually endorsed Glenn Youngkin and not Terry McAuliffe because they see a difference. They see someone who is a former business person who understands the economy, understands addressing the needs of the American people, especially those in Virginia. And this is why the Democrats are running scared, because they see that Republicans can win and can be very competitive in places like Virginia. So we're optimistic about our chances there, and we're encouraging all Republicans and those independents that are frustrated with the radical policies that they see coming out of Terry McAuliffe, who says, and I quote, parents have no right to be involved in the education of their children. That's wildly unpopular, especially with the parents in Virginia. They want to be involved in their children's education. Glenn Youngkin believes that. Terry McAuliffe is against that. That's why Terry McAuliffe is not going to win this race.
All right. Paris Dennard, RNC spokesman. Great to have you on this morning. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.